Most people think you need a well or city water to live comfortably. But for the last 5 years, we've been collecting rainwater off of our roof and living off of that. Storing it under our house and living comfortably with this as our water system. And the craziest part, this entire setup costs less than most people spend on a smartphone. We're moving soon, but before we leave this place, I wanted to document exactly how this system works, because honestly, I think systems like this could help people all over the world. This is our gravel water filter. We collect water off the roof, comes down the drain pipe. We have a second tank over here. This is another gravel water filter. And we don't have a downspout on that, but it usually gets plenty of water. This is the tank under my house. There's the floor, and the tank's in a hole. We have to move this board. I want to talk about why I built this water system. When we moved here 5.5 years ago, I didn't have the money for a well. I didn't think I had the money to hook up to grid water. There is grid water on this property, but it's almost 1,000 feet of pipe I'd have to dig a long trench and bury. And that seemed too costly to do at the time. And I didn't want a well. I wanted rainwater for drinking, and I thought we could run off of rainwater entirely. For the most part, that's been true. We've only actually filled this with grid water one time in 5.5 years. We got half a tank from a different property that had grid water when the tank was empty, and I'll explain why later in the video, because it was not the problem I thought it was. Let's just put it that way. I was wanting independence. I didn't want to be dependent on a grid system. This was affordable. The whole system cost me about $300 for 2 tanks, 2 water filters, some gutters, water pump, and then some pipes to hook it all together. And it's a simple system. It's basically gravity flow. If I go away, the tank will fill up, and then when I come home, there'll be plenty of water again. Or just, if it rains one night, I wake up and have a full tank. So I really like this system. I think it can bless a lot of people. Most places throughout the world have water insecurity. And if with a system like this, you're going to have a lot less water insecurity. We didn't build this to be extreme. We built this to be a practical solution. I use a Berkey water filter to purify the water for drinking, because that's just the best water filter I know of out there. So it's really, we start with water on the roof, catch it in the gutters, and then filter it through gravel here in a gravel water filter. And then it drains through gravity into that tank under our house. This tank under our house is only about 40% full right now. If you see the line down there, somewhere here. I'll just show you how I get to this. There's our floor. You lift this ring, and there's the access to the basement. Crawl space, something like that. Anyway, there's our tank. It's less than half full, but it's what we need. I think the backup tank is going to be almost full. This is in our pantry. Got a board we lift up from the floor and steps down to this tank. Got better at that. Anyway, I'm going to turn on my light. Sorry about that. And here's the other tank, totally full. Got a backup water pump on this one, you can see. And there's a similar water pump on the other one, which we'll show you later in the video. So we use a sawdust toilet, not a flush toilet, because we don't have that much water with just 2 tanks. The washing machine runs just fine. Got pipes coming to it. And a sink here. I already showed you the kitchen sink. And a shower. And a water heater. Okay, let's talk about the roof. I prefer a metal roof because the shingle roofs that are the other common roof type we have here in America are, there's more debris, little bits of shingles come down in the water. And then we go into a gutter. This gutter is kind of hanging off because we got a lot of ice storm damage last winter. But it still functions, it still gets the water in here into the tank. The big problem we had last winter was we had leaves in the gutter. So you really want to keep the leaves out of the gutter. Check it every few months, or if your water tank isn't filling when it should. Then we gravity flow through a downspout into gravel water filters. This filter should really have a little bit more. The other one gives you a better example of what I would consider ideal. This is our other water filter for our backup tank. Got a screen over this to keep these leaves out. And I clean that off a couple times a year. But this is almost half full with gravel. Well, probably only a quarter, but it gets the water really clean just running through this much limestone gravel. Then we gravity flow it under the house into the tank. Having the tank under the house in a dark crawl space or in a basement is something I think is really wise to do. It means that there's a lot more darkness, and so algae grow less in the water. Some people wrap these tanks in black plastic or something, and that works somewhat too, I guess. But I really just like to be able to see my water level. So that's not really a thing I would want personally. And so when we built the house, we dug a hole down low enough, that's about a foot lower than the rest of the surrounding dirt, and put it in the crawl space. And then this has been where we keep most of our water. We have a backup tank, as I showed you earlier. I just have it running on one tank. I may eventually plumb them together, except I'm planning to move. So we had a lot of issues here, one of which was the leaves in the gutter, but causing no water to come into the tank for months. But we had a lot of other issues: cold, improperly insulated floors, some family issues where relatives made us want to move out of the county. The heart of the operation is this water pump. It's a RV pump. I've got a switch somewhere up here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's above me. And so I can turn it off with that. I've got shutoffs here. And this pump goes on when you open a faucet and stays off the rest of the time. I had this dream for many years, and when I finally figured out an RV water pump would work for the system, that's when I was able to actually build the system and make my house and my off-grid lifestyle dreams a reality. The rest of it you just plumb like a normal house water system. And then I don't know exactly how pure the water is, so we run the drinking water through the Berkey for maximum purity. They say you can take mud and put it in a Berkey water filter and still get good clean drinking water. But I've never tried that, but it sure cleans out just about everything we've ever had to put in there. We've been doing Berkey water for a long time, 12 years maybe. And very delicious and refreshing. The system is not without challenges. We do have the issue where this sometimes gets frozen full of water and ice during the winter time, or the drain pipes into the house get iced over, and if it gets super duper cold, even the pipes right around the tank can get cold and frozen. And last winter, all the water was supposed to go through that hole up there in the gutter, but it got clogged with a few leaves, and so hardly any water was coming through into this tank here. That's for a backup water filter. So we had a heavy rainstorm, and I went down in there, and there was only about an inch of water in the bottom of the tank after a heavy rainstorm. And I was like, okay, something's really not right still. And that's when I was able to fix it. Sometimes these water pumps wear out faster than they should. Some of our pumps have only lasted about a year. Others have lasted almost 3 years. Don't know the difference. They were the same brand. Now I have the new one I showed you earlier, and that one is a higher quality one, so I think it'll last longer. Okay, let's talk about how much storage space we have. We have 2 tanks, each of them are 275 gallons, so when they're full, that's 550 gallons. We probably use about 10 gallons a day if we're taking short showers. So that's 55 days supply. In our rainy climate, that works pretty good. If you were in a desert, you'd want a longer day supply. If you use flush toilets, you're going to use a lot more water. So one thing this system taught me, a lot of people assume secure water has to be complicated or pricey. But if you have a roof, gravity, a storage tank, and basic filtration, you can collect and use enormous amounts of water. The system isn't perfect, but it proved to us that ordinary people can do far more than they think. And the other thing I want to talk about is rainwater. When you actually have rainstorms, it's almost a pollutant, because if you have too much rain, then it can cause flooding. But we're taking that resource that seems like there's too much of it, and we're turning it into an extremely valuable asset and reducing downstream flooding. But I want to talk about our new place. We are going to probably be on the grid there with grid water so we can flush toilets. But we plan to have a system similar to this one with 2 tanks and some water catchment off a roof. So that way if the grid ever goes down, we still have the rainwater, and we'll have the rainwater for drinking, definitely, because we don't want to drink the county city water where we're living in our new place. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll have some other videos about our move on the end screen.